Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about toxic PMDD partners, meaning the partner that has PMDD and the partner that doesn't have PMDD. So what's been happening lately is I joined TikTok a couple of months ago. I wasn't originally on there. I was primarily on Instagram. You know, if you've been following me for a while, that I talk a lot about how I'm on Instagram. You can DM me between 2 to 3 hours a day. You can DM me directly. And I have a business mentor who said, you know, Dr. Rose, I really think you need to be on TikTok. And I was like, I don't really think that I have the bandwidth to do all of these different platforms with everything I have going on. But she was like, there is definitely a need for you to be on TikTok. And so I decided to start my journey on TikTok. So if you've not followed me there, it's In Love with PMDD. And I know that's where I got a lot of my new followers that are now here. So welcome. And when I got on TikTok, it opened my eyes to an audience of people that were very interactive and reactive to the posts that I was making as far as wanting to hear more about this specific topic. And so this is actually in response to a lot of the comments that I got on my post that I don't know what you consider viral. I don't know. It has like 19,000 views at this point. I don't know if that's considered whatever, but I know it's one of the ones it's pinned to the top of my profile, so you can actually go in there and look at it. And it's the trick of PMDD that messes up your relationship. So that's the title of the video. And I really just lay out what I talk about here. And that is how PMDD messes with your brain to make you want to break up with your partner. And so I was getting a lot of the usual feedback of like, yes, I go through this, Dr. Rose. Oh my gosh, this is me. You know, all of the things that I love and the reason why I do what I do. But I was getting some other comments and they were really, really, really aggressive, which I love as far as like, I don't know. For example, I pulled up the comments, I screenshotted them here, and this is for the first time ever. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm actually responding to my TikTok audience live on here with a video. Not a video. Actually, it is a video because I am recording it as well, but on video. But I'm addressing what a toxic PMDD partner is because the first thing I want to preface is that my advice to tell you to not break up with your PMDD partner is not advice if you have a toxic partner. I am not telling you to stay with your toxic partner. I really think that when we think about blaming PMDD for so many things, as far as our symptoms and the problems in our relationship, does PMDD cause a lot of issues within your relationship? Absolutely. Do I say that don't let the issues that your PMDD symptoms have cause you to want to break up with your partner every month because you know when you go into your follicular phase, you're not going to feel that way anymore, so you don't want to regret it? Absolutely. However, comma, if you are with a toxic partner, the tools that I am giving you as far as staying with your partner and mitigating your symptoms are not going to work because you're not supposed to be with a toxic partner. And when you have a toxic partner and you have PMDD, it really leaves the door open for you to have a lot of physical, verbal, and emotional abuse. And I've been down this journey, and it is literally the most torturous experiences that I've ever had. And when I say toxic partner, I mean, you can label it whatever you want. I always, always, always will reference the narcissist because I feel and believe and know that that is one of the most damaging relationships that you can have while you have PMDD is a relationship with a narcissist. But there are other toxic kinds of partners that are not necessarily narcissists. And I really don't even like using the term that much because I feel like it's overused, a lot of times as far as narcissist is concerned because it actually is a disorder. NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is a thing, but I feel like it's so loosely used that when a partner is just toxic, they automatically put them in the category of narcissist. But your partner doesn't have to be a narcissist in order to be a toxic PMDD partner or have toxic traits. And so, what I'm going to do today is I'm really going to identify what a toxic PMDD partner is and how it's going to impact your PMDD relationship. But first and foremost, I want to let you know that I am not advocating for you to stay with a toxic partner. I have left toxic partners in the past because I know during my luteal phase when I'm in PMDD, it's just not possible. There's a lot of things that we can endure. There's a lot of things that humans can endure, specifically when you're in your follicular phase, a lot of things that you can brush over and all of these things and kind of make excuses for, which is what I was the queen of. I would always make excuses for my partner's behavior. I did a lot of fantasy, which I'll do another podcast on that, which is I would fantasize about who I wanted my partner to be. And then every single time I went back to them when I knew that I needed to leave, I was going back to the fantasy. I wasn't really going back to the reality of who that partner was. I was going back to that image that I created in my mind that told me, oh, this is a good person for you, and all of these things. And I told myself that story, and that's what kept me going back. But the first thing I want to do is go through these comments, and then I'll go ahead and give you the tools like I always do. Every single podcast, I give you tools for everything I teach you. And we're just going to have a conversation about these comments. So basically during this video, and again, please go back and follow me. I post videos every single day on there and I'm really, really interactive on there. I still am on Instagram, but I really am responding to the TikTok audience because it is a lot of individuals that are very desirable. Like they really want to hear this information and want to get help and want the tools. And I'm not saying that the individuals on Instagram don't, but I've been there for so long that they know me. They know what I'm there for. And the individuals on TikTok, because I'm so new, they're like, oh my goodness, I've never heard of you. This is the first time I'm hearing anyone talk about this. So it's that fresh discovery. So I want to make sure that I'm nurturing that audience as well. Um, so in the video, it basically talks about PMDD telling you, it's tricking your brain into thinking that you want to break up. And then this person says, I'm not giving any names of individuals who are writing these comments, by the way, completely anonymous unless you go on the post. But it has 100 and like at this point, it has like 161 comments. So I'm just going to go over a few. And I'm gonna go over the ones that have the most likes. And this one has literally one of the most. I'm gonna go through. Yeah, this one has the most. And it says, so these, and that's the thing I love about TikTok is that they're basically responding to me. And it's like a real like conversation. Like, I don't know, Dr. Rose. And so she's literally like, I don't know. I'm just saying after my divorce, my PMDD symptoms drastically improved. 115 people loved, AKA liked this statement. Now, this was very hard for me to address because prior to my most recent breakup with my ex PMDD partner, I used to hear this all the time. My PMDD symptoms are so much better now that I'm single. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was not sold on that. I was not an advocate for saying that your PMDD is going to be better if you are single. It was very cut and dry because I felt like that's not every client, every couple for me is very individual based. I deal with every client individually. I deal with their issues, and a lot of it, PMDD is an aspect of it, but it's also issues that they have in the relationship. So to just come out and say, oh, if break up with your partner, that your PMDD symptoms are going to be drastically improved, it sounded almost like, oh, being single is a cure for PMDD. And if you follow me on Instagram, I actually have a quote that says being single is not a cure for PMDD. So I was not in agreement with this statement. However, being that I have now experienced a breakup, and I will say, I'm at this point, it'll be 7 months after the breakup. I will say that my PMDD symptoms have dramatically improved. And I say that cautiously because I don't just mean because I'm single. I just mean the relationship that I was specifically in, the partner that I was specifically with, is the reason why my PMDD symptoms have dramatically improved. So what I'm saying is if you have a toxic PMDD partner and then you remove that toxic PMDD partner, your symptoms will be dramatically improved because your cortisol levels will be lower, which is the stress hormone. You are going to be less stressed out by a toxic partner, which means your symptoms are not going to flare up as much while you're in PMDD. Will you still have PMDD symptoms? Yes. So this is why I say being single, is not a cure for PMDD because I still have PMDD symptoms. I talk to you about them all the time. I have the night sweats. I have the sensitivity to noise. I have the irritability. I have the feeling of PMDD rage. I have the bouts of anxiety, feeling really anxious. I have the days that I'm in depression. I have the majority of the days fatigue, low energy. So, what I want to preface with this comment is that the individual is saying that their symptoms dramatically improved. It did not say that it cured their PMDD symptoms. It did not say that it took away their PMDD symptoms, but I know what you're thinking. I would do almost anything to get my symptoms dramatically improved. Maybe I should just break up with my partner. Here's the thing, this that only works if you have a toxic PMDD partner. So let me go into what that is, and then I'll go through some more of the comments. So a toxic PMDD partner is someone who their behaviors and actions mixed with your PMDD symptoms negatively impact your well-being, your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Now, PMDD has mood swings, irritability, all of these symptoms. It does not excuse the toxic behavior. So, what I'm telling you is when you are in PMDD and you are with a toxic partner, it is going to make your emotional, physical, mental, spiritual well being harmed. It is going to make it worse for you in all of those specific areas. I know for me, every single area that I just mentioned was impacted by being in a toxic relationship and being with a toxic partner because physically I would have a lot of tension in my body. I was very hyper vigilant. I was very on edge all the time. I am not that way now. I have moments. And that's the thing. When you have PMDD and you remove yourself from that toxic relationship, you will have moments where you will have these symptoms. I have moments where I feel anxious, but I'm not continuously in a state of anxiety. I'm not continuously depressed. I'm not continuously hypervigilant. I'm not continuously irritable. Because when I was in a toxic relationship, I was like that all the time. I was always on high alert. I was always looking for the next bad thing that was going to happen. I was always feeling like, what I was doing wasn't good enough. I was always feeling like I didn't know what was going to happen next. Like there was always this state of chaos and confusion. That is how I would describe it. My life was filled with chaos and confusion in a toxic relationship. There was no peace. A lot of times when you're asking for peace, like, I just want peace in my relationship. I just want peace in my life while I'm in PMDD, you want peace because you're in that state of chaos and confusion. And so when you're with a toxic partner, this really, really prevents you from having that. And so I will say that now that I am single, and I am single, because I know that there's like questions about that. I don't know. You guys are thinking, what, because I did the dating with PMDD course and all this. I am single, right? I'm good. Um, but I don't have a lot of the symptoms flared up the way that they were before. And when I say toxic PMDD partner, I mean toxic for you as an individual. So this is what I want to make very clear for you, that your partner could be toxic for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a toxic person. I'm going to say that again. Your partner could be toxic for you, but that doesn't mean that they're a toxic person. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person overall. It doesn't mean that they don't have any good qualities. It doesn't mean that they don't have good intentions. It doesn't mean that they're not trying their best. It just means for the luteal phase of you, for the PMDD you, they are toxic for you. They are not compatible with your luteal phase. And I know a lot of us really learn about PMDD after we've already been with our partner. Like, say if you've been married for 20 years, there's no way that you were going to be able to choose a partner based off of your PMDD if you didn't even know that you had PMDD, or you didn't even know that it was a thing to choose someone based off of, your luteal phase and how you are. And as you grow over the years, your PMDD symptoms look differently, and you honestly have to have a partner that is compatible for who you are in PMDD. So it's not always the partner's fault that they are toxic for you. It could just be a fact. And I had to re I wrestled with that for a minute because, with my breakup, the biggest thing that I had was I was very self-aware to know that I didn't want there to be any bitterness, resentment, or unforgiveness for me being in the relationship. That was the biggest thing for me. I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be resentful, and I don't want to have any unforgiveness in my heart for my ex-partner. I'm grateful. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I am grateful for the relationship that I had with my ex-PMDD partners and all my ex-PMDD partners. I wouldn't be the doctor that I am today. I wouldn't be able to relate to you as much as I can had I not gone through everything that I went through. But I will say that everything comes with a cost. So it's from a practitioner's point of view, as PMDD is getting more and more out there and being more recognized, which I love, which is why I wrote my dissertation. I strongly believe that unless you've had PMDD, unless you've been in a relationship and had PMDD, it is very difficult to relate to the emotional, physical, even spiritual turmoil like that you experience, the trauma that you experience, because someone can explain it to you, but until you felt it, it doesn't really hit home. That's what I've experienced because even the comment that the person made, when they said, I don't know, I'm just saying after my divorce, my PMDD symptoms dramatically improved, that didn't hit home for me until it happened for me, until I was able to say, you know what? Because I've had private clients tell me, Dr. Rose, I think that I should just, break up with my partner and my symptoms are going to improve. And I was like, that's not the answer. And still, I may say that that's not the answer if you genuinely have issues in your relationship that you need to work out. Like these are issues that you're going to have with any partner. So we should probably address them, right? But I know that we're in this realm of quick fixes. So it's like, oh, break up with my partner so that I don't have any more symptoms and then I'll be good. That's not what's happening here. What's happening is when you are with a partner that is toxic for you, when you're in PMDD, and again, I'm going to go over what that looks like, then it makes everything within your PMDD relationship harder. It makes using the tools harder. Remember, I tried to use the tools on my ex-partner so many times and it worked for a while until it didn't. And I was like, I remember being shocked. And that's one of the ways that you know that like, hey, this partner is toxic for you being in PMDD because the help that you're trying to get, the way that you're trying to mitigate it, it's not working. And it's not working because maybe this is not the partner for you, or they need to utilize tools to not be toxic anymore. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, "Oh my goodness," when I go through the list of what a toxic PMDD partner looks like, when you listen to it and you say, "Oh my goodness, Dr. Rose, that's me." You know, I always reference Taylor Swift, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. If you are saying that that's you, that does not mean that you cannot be with your PMDD partner. And I gave the same opportunity to all of my exes when I recognized, hey, this is not working, these are the things that need to be changed. They're either willing to change them or they're not. So that's what I will tell you. That is kind of your indication of whether you can still be in this relationship, even though your partner has toxic traits, is if they're willing to admit and take accountability and say, you know what? I am toxic in this way. I do have this particular trait that Dr. Rose is talking about. I want to get help for that. If any of my partners would have said that, and taken full accountability for their role and said, you know what, you could, because my biggest thing I told you was offense, hurtful words. The way that my exes who have been toxic have not been congruent for me in PMDD is because of those hurtful words, because of the way that I get offended and the way that it triggers my childhood trauma. That's a me thing. So what I'm saying is, I'm not telling you that it's your fault that I can't handle hurtful words and yelling and screaming and cussing, and because there's some people that can't. There's some people you can do all of those actions with and it wouldn't even bother them. You can yell at them, you can cuss them out. They'll probably have sex with you right after. They probably, some people genuinely, it's a thrill for them. Like they grew up in that environment. It's very normal for them. They'll cuss you out and have sex with you and have dinner with you and go about their life, and it's no big deal. For me, that is traumatic because I grew up being verbally abused by my adopted father, telling me the same things that I was hearing partners say that were evil, mean, just below the belt, just horrible. And I can't relive that because what it does is it leaves me open to react to them as if I'm back in that same environment that I was with my childhood trauma. So it's not good for them and it's not good for me. The only times that I've gone off on PMDD rage is when I've been with a toxic partner. I will say that. The only time that I've gone off on PMDD rage is when I've been with a toxic partner. Again, toxic partner for me, because I've been with partners before that haven't even known that I had PMDD. I remember that because I have a best friend and she was like, "What do you mean you have PMDD? Like, did you just get it?" I remember being with my ex and telling her, about all of my PMDD symptoms and all of this. And she's known me for over, what is it? Over 15 years now. And she's like, "What is this PMDD thing?" Like, and we talk every day. She's like, "Did you just get this?" Or like, "What is this new thing?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "This is crazy. We talk all the time. You've never mentioned your PMDD symptoms this much." And like, I don't understand. I've talked to you with multiple partners and you've never mentioned it. And honestly, she's absolutely right. I remember trying to convince her otherwise because I'm very protective of my partners. When I'm in a relationship, I'm very protective. So I was like, "No, I've had this the whole time and you just don't pay attention and you just don't notice and blah blah blah." No, I didn't mention it because I was with partners that didn't trigger my childhood trauma, that didn't trigger my PMDD. I was able to do my routines with my PMDD and it didn't bother them. my exes that weren't toxic for me, I was able to manage my symptoms in a way that never impacted my relationship because I wasn't with a toxic partner. Again, toxic partner for me. So let's go through another comment. And this one was shocking for me. I was like, oh my goodness. So this person says, it would be a shame if our partners clocked this and pre-planned when we were going to be in PMDD just to punish us. This is when the N word came to mind, narcissist. A narcissist, with their gaslighting and all of their things and manipulating and controlling behavior, like all of these things, I could see a narcissist doing this. Knowing when you're in PMDD, I've been in a relationship like this, and I mean, it sends you spiraling to where you almost don't know what to believe. You're in a state of confusion. Again, chaos and confusion. And so you're in this state where it's like they're telling you that their version of the situation happened, or something didn't happen that happened. Right. And you're like, no, I know that this happened. And like, that never happened. Like, what are you talking about? I never said that to you. Like, they'll be like, what's wrong with you? And you'll be like, I'm really upset because you said this thing to me. You called me this name or you said this to me. And they'll literally tell you, I never said that to you. Why are you making that up? I would never talk to you like that. So then you're in PMDD and you're like, maybe they didn't say it. Maybe I am making stuff up. Maybe, maybe it is me. Maybe I'm just blaming them for no reason. What kind of person would blame their partner for no reason? Now you're beating yourself up over something that actually happened because they're gaslighting you and they keep you in a state of chaos and confusion. So what this person is talking about here on my TikTok is saying that the narcissist can track your cycle, and every single time you go into PMDD, use it to punish you in these specific ways, and you stay in that state. You start to really not trust yourself. And when you're in PMDD, you already really don't trust yourself anyway. But when you're dealing with a toxic partner like a narcissist, um, you it's torturous. That's why I say it's really, really torturous. Here's another one that I wanted to talk about. My partner drank and terrorized me in between video game benders. It wasn't PMDD. So basically, you have a partner that's an alcoholic. You have a partner that's emotionally unavailable. You have a partner that is neglecting you. You have a partner that is treating you horribly, getting drunk, cussing you out, all of these things. Um, and then when you're in PMDD, they're just basically manipulating you into thinking that you're being super sensitive or like it's no big deal. They're minimizing their actions and they're waiting till you get into PMDD to make you feel bad about yourself. A lot of times, and I've seen this a lot of times when we're talking about alcoholics, which is again another version of a toxic PMDD partner, is whew, they will, and I've been in all of these. I've been in a lot of toxic relationships. Like again, there is a price to pay for the knowledge and experience that I have because I'm able to relate to my clients, but it does not come without a price. I'm just saying. But when you have an alcoholic PMDD partner, they will cuss you out, yell, scream at you, make you feel horrible about yourself. This is also when they will videotape you. They will provoke you into saying and doing things out of character. They will trigger you into PMDD rage. And then when you go off on them in PMDD rage, they will start to videotape you. They will video record you while you're yelling, while you're screaming, while you're in the middle of one of your PMDD episodes saying hurtful words to them, and then they will show it back to you later on or even in the moment because they're that toxic, they're that abusive for you that they're willing to make you seem like you're the problem. And again, when they're alcoholics, the alcohol stays in your system, you sleep it off, wake up the next day and be ready for pancakes. And then if you're still hurt by their actions the day before, they'll say that you're the problem. Like, what's your problem? Why are you being dramatic? Why do you want to fight with me? They will literally provoke you into PMDD rage. They will trigger you while you're in PMDD. They will say hurtful words to you. They will do all these things that are abusive. And when they're an alcoholic, they'll wake up the next day and it's like nothing happened. And so you'll begin to get accustomed to this and you'll be living a lifestyle of almost making excuses for their behavior. Because when you try to address it with them, they minimize it and make it seem like it's no big deal. And it's almost like, get on the boat. Like, we're moving on. Why are you being dramatic? You're so sensitive. All of these things that they'll say to you for reacting to their abusive behavior. Because an alcoholic, when they're in that state, they have no barriers. They're just saying and doing whatever comes to their mind. And they almost treat you as if they should be allowed to. And that you're the problem if you don't allow them to express themselves. They may say, I should be able to say what I want to say in this relationship. I feel so constrained. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, somebody else would be able to take this. And so you begin to think that you are too sensitive. You begin to get insecure. You begin to think maybe it's not a big deal to be verbally abused like this, to be insulted and yelled and name called like this. What I will say to you, and I had to reference this when I was in these relationships, specifically with an alcoholic, is if you have a child, it's really, really good. And if you have a girl, it's even better. I had to literally say to myself, would I advise my daughter to stay in a relationship with someone like this? Forget, because if you're only listening to your toxic partner, they're automatically going to want you to stay. So they're going to say all these things to make it seem like it's no big deal. But if you have a child or a niece or a cousin or a little girl who's going to grow up one day and be in a relationship, and they call you and they come to you and they tell you the behavior that this toxic partner is showing them, would you say, oh, just get back in the ring, just get back in there and just, try to be nice to them and maybe they're just having a bad day? No, as far as I'm concerned, it's a hard no for me. I have a 14-year-old daughter that's about to be 15. And when I look back on a lot of the behaviors from my toxic PMDD partners, there's no way that I would tell her to stay. Would it be her choice? Absolutely. If she's a grown adult, it's her choice. But if she's coming to me for advice, if a client is coming to me for advice and they're with a toxic partner, I take it very strategically. Because there's a difference between, again, someone being toxic and that's just their nature. Like a narcissist, that's their nature. It's very hard to change a narcissist. Am I saying it's not possible? No, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I would say that without professional help, like you're not going to do it. I I wish someone had told me that, but just so we're clear, you're not going to change a narcissist on your own. You don't have the tools, the arsenal to change a narcissist. Now, when we're talking about someone that just has toxic behavior and toxic traits, and they become self-aware of them and they begin to catch themselves and rewire their brain and do different actions and things, yeah, absolutely. Those things can change, right? Those we can work on that. Is it hard? Yes. Is it a process? Yes. But a narcissist, that's a whole disorder. It's like someone saying they could change someone who has PMDD into not having PMDD. Like it's a whole disorder. It's deeply rooted within that individual. There's a reason why they're a narcissist. And so I'm going to go over one more comment and then I'll go over the tools. Um, and one of the things that when we're talking about, it says, because, oh, it's basically saying that when you have a toxic partner, the comment is referencing that PMDD is not the problem. My partner is actually the problem. They're actually verbally abusive, they're physically abusive, all these things. And PMDD just gets me into a state where I can't take it anymore, which PMDD will. PMDD will not allow you to tolerate a lot of the things that you would tolerate in your follicular phase. So, in their mind, they're saying it's not that PMDD is tricking me. It is actually that my partner is actually toxic, and PMDD is not letting me stay in that toxic situation without exasperating my symptoms, which is 100% true, which 100% happens. So, what I want you to get from all of these comments and what I really just got from the audience that I love is that PMDD is not always the problem in your relationship if you are with a toxic partner. If you are with a toxic partner, that is a separate entity. When it's mixed with PMDD, it becomes torturous. So if you have a partner that has these toxic traits that I'm about to talk about, or these toxic behaviors, or they are toxic overall, that's something you really need to think about. Do you want to stay on that hamster wheel? I've been on that hamster wheel. And again, what did I tell you that I did in order to stay in my toxic relationships? I did one of the things that I used as a coping mechanism for my childhood trauma. I started to create a fantasy of what I wanted them to be so that I was ignoring reality. I was disassociating from the reality of the situation because I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to let that person go. There were always deep trauma bonds there because once I'm in, I'm all in on relationships. So it's really hard for me to let go. So me creating those stories in my mind was my way of staying with a toxic partner. But I will tell you, the longer I stayed in that toxic relationship, those toxic relationships, the harder it was for me and my PMDD, the worse my symptoms became. And actually, I never had suicidal ideations until I was with a toxic partner. I remember the first time I had one, I was shocked. Like I had the suicidal ideation and I literally was like, it was like an outer body experience because I was really thinking to myself, how did I get here? How did I allow myself to get here? Not that I'm above anybody else in PMDD, but it was so far from how I had experienced PMDD before. I'm like, I've had PMDD this whole time. I've been in relationships many, many times. Why am I now at this point that I want to, as they say, unalive myself because of my PMDD relationship? And it wasn't necessarily because of my PMDD relationship, it was because of my PMDD partner that I was with that made it unbearable. So I'm going to go through the signs that you are with a toxic PMDD partner. So let's get into it. Number one, consistent verbal abuse. You know, I always say this, I call it hurtful words. That's just my own language. It's really verbal abuse, right? Frequently using hurtful words, insults, or yelling, especially during PMDD, making you feel worse about yourself and you already feel bad about yourself when you're in PMDD. But this is key. Without any efforts to manage their behavior and the verbal abuse or apologize for their behavior. So the key thing in this is the lack of accountability. I am acutely aware, I'm very aware that when you're in PMDD, you can be verbally abusive, both of you, the partner that has PMDD and the partner that doesn't. It's just a thing. Am I condoning it? Am I saying it's okay? No. Am I saying that you need to get rid of your PMDD partner because they yelled at you? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying without any effort to manage it. Like I did one of those things when I noticed that the verbal abuse was very abusive to me and it was very triggering to me in PMDD. I brought it to my partner's attention. Like I was very self-aware, like, hey, this does not work for me. This is not okay for me. This is actually making my PMDD symptoms worse. If I would have been responded with an apology and a, oh my goodness, thank you for bringing this up, babe. I'm so sorry. I really don't want to make you suffer even more in your PMDD. I'm really going to work on that. Period. Done. You're not toxic. Toxic is you just need to deal with it. You're too sensitive. Everything is a trigger to you. That kind of response is toxic because that is saying you're telling me that your hurtful my hurtful words are making your PMDD symptoms worse. You are living with a disorder and my behavior is making your disorder worse and I'm not willing to do anything about it. Toxic PMDD partner. Red flag. Ring the alarm. Toxic PMDD partner. Let's go on to the next one. Emotional manipulation. When you start using guilt, blaming, and shaming or emotional blackmail to control or manipulate your partner's actions and feelings, when you start playing with their emotions specifically when they're in PMDD, meaning if you go off on your PMDD partner in PMDD rage because you've had an episode, you've apologized for the episode, you feel horrible about the episode, you're working on yourself, you're trying to get the tools, all the things, and then every single time that your partner does something and you confront them and say, "Hey, babe, I didn't like it when you do this, or I didn't like it when you do that," and they immediately bring up what you did in PMDD rage and throw it back in your face and make you feel worse about yourself, that is emotional manipulation. They're blaming you and shaming you for episodes that you've had in PMDD that you have taken full accountability for and that you have apologized for. That's emotional blackmail, and they're going to continuously keep a bank of actions and reactions that you have taken in PMDD, that you've done in PMDD, and they're going to use them against you. They're going to use every single thing that you do in PMDD that you feel horrible about, that you've apologized for, and they're going to use it to not take accountability for their own actions. So you almost feel like you can't call them out, as I always say, or you can't address anything that they've done because they're going to consistently remind you of what you're doing. And so that goes into number three, which is neglecting accountability for their own actions. A toxic PMDD partner is going to refuse to take responsibility for their actions and blame all of their negative behavior solely on PMDD. They are going to make it seem like they are the best partner ever. And if it wasn't for you suffering in PMDD and triggering them, none of their behavior would have happened. They never would have cussed you out. They never would have yelled at you. They never would have done all these things to you that they did had you not triggered them because you were in PMDD. They're neglecting accountability because it's all your fault because of your PMDD. So they're not seeking help and they're not trying to manage their behavior towards you. That's unacceptable. Big red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. Number four, isolating behavior. They're intentionally cutting you off from friends, family, support systems, making you feel like you can't talk to your friends. This a lot of times happens when you have partners, toxic PMDD partners that are jealous or insecure. Again, I've been in this situation where it's almost like you feel like it's not even worth it. The hassle of trying to talk to a friend, talk to a family member, talk to a coworker, talk to anyone is so traumatic. It becomes such an argument. It becomes so stressful that you're saying, you know what, I'm just not going to talk to my friends. I'm just not going to talk to my family. I'm just not going to talk to my coworkers. I'm just not going to do anything without you because it's always a problem and it's always like I'm doing something wrong by wanting to interact with other people. Red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. You become very alone and you become very codependent on them because that's pretty much the only relationship that they're saying that is acceptable in your relationship. Number five, constant criticism. Consistently criticizing or belittling your partner and causing them to have low self-esteem because of things that they've done while they're in PMDD. Consistently telling them that they are doing stuff wrong, they're not getting it right. And this a lot of times can go for both partners. So this can go for the partner that doesn't have PMDD. So again, we as PMDD sufferers could be toxic PMDD partners. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, dang, Dr. Rose, I do those things. You may be the toxic partner. You may be the toxic PMDD partner. There's some of these behaviors that when I was looking at them, I was like, oh, I do them. I think I'll get to them in a minute, the ones that I do, but that I've had to do that I've worked on. I don't presently do them, but when I was, learning about this and teaching this to my private clients, I was like, wow, I really kind of do that. And it's kind of a wake-up call, not to get offended, not to get defensive, but almost like this is something that I need to get help with. So the consistent criticism, belittling your partner, telling them, I actually, this is the one, that's why I mentioned it. This is the one that I used to do. I used to be very hard on my ex-PMDD partner with a lot of things. And I remember saying to him one time when I was in PMDD, like, you just need to suck it up. And I remember those words like kind of stuck to him, and it really hurt him because there were certain actions that I have a high standard for my partner, and I was just like, well, kind of like in that motivation kind of phase, and like, oh, you need to do this and you need to do this, and I was putting all this pressure on my partner, and they were making all these excuses because I'm not really, when you're my partner, I'm not really into coddling you in a sense that it's crippling, like meaning preventing you from moving forward and doing things. I want to obviously be supportive, but not in a way that causes you to feel like you don't have to do anything. So I had to work on my consistent criticism where I was, he was bringing me situations of things that happen at work, and I was, taking the other person's side and saying, well, what about you? Like, what was your place in it? And it was like I was wanting him to take accountability, but it was consistent criticism, just being really hard on him when he really just needed support. So that's a trait of a toxic PMDD partner where they're consistently criticizing you, where you see that your partner is feeling bad about themselves and then you make them feel even worse. So it lowers their self-esteem. They feel more insecure about themselves. They feel less confident in themselves and who they are as a person. Red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. Number six, controlling behavior. This is a really big one because when you start trying to control various aspects of your partner's life, like making decisions, social interactions, you know, personal choices, things with finances, things that hobbies that they have, trying to say, oh, I don't like that you do this. Like this can go back into the isolating thing. I don't like that you have this activity. I don't like that you like to go dancing because I don't want you dancing with other people. I don't like that you like going to the gym with that crop top on. I don't like that you go play tennis because you got a short skirt on. I don't like that you go to the movies by yourself because you can meet someone else at the movies. At this point, they're so controlling. It's like you can't do anything outside of be with them because everything else is a threat. This is a sign of a toxic PMDD partner because they're not giving you that autonomy and that freedom to be an actual individual person. They only expect you to be codependent on them in a relationship. And a toxic PMDD partner wants you to be codependent on them so that they can continue to manipulate you. Once you come out of that space and you start connecting to other people, you may wake up one day and realize, wait, this is not the way I'm supposed to be treated. And the worst thing that a toxic PMDD partner wants you to do is realize that you deserve better and get the heck up out of there. Like they don't want you to come to that reality, so they try to keep you as isolated as possible. Red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. Number seven, lack of empathy. This is really huge for someone who has PMDD because if your partner doesn't have empathy for your suffering in PMDD, if they feel like you're milking it, this is a toxic PMDD partner where you tell them that you're suffering and they gaslight you and say that they don't believe you. I've said this before, the narcissist uses this a lot. You may say that you're in PMDD and they'll be like, let me see your app or let prove it to me that you're in PMDD or no, you're not. Last month you were in PMDD and it was on the 20th and now it's this day. Like that doesn't make any sense. You're just making that up. Oh, I guess you're always in PMDD. This is when they're showing little to no concern for your feelings, your needs, your well-being. They're not trying to be supportive. They're just feeling like PMDD is a big nuisance and it is a barrier to them getting their needs met. So they're feeling like they don't care that you're suffering in PMDD. All they're just waiting for you to be out of PMDD so they can go back to getting their needs met. Red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. Number eight, unpredictability. This is really huge as a toxic PMDD partner because you're creating an environment where we're doing what? Walking on eggshells. When you create an environment when your partner is constantly feeling on edge and unsure of what to expect, this is a toxic PMDD partner. I've been in a situation where I've been so hyper vigilant. I've been so on edge. I mean, like literally hands shaking. I literally wake up and I'm checking my phone and I'm thinking about what happened the day before. And I'm like, are we talking? Are we not talking? Is this like what's going on? Like I was so stressed and overwhelmed um, because everything in our relationship was so unpredictable. One day we're up, one day we're down, one day we're up, one day. I didn't know if we were coming or going, honestly. And that's the sign of a toxic PMDD partner because there's no peace in that. Remember, the opposite of peace in your PMDD relationship is chaos and confusion. Red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. Number nine, refusal to seek help. I see this all the time where you know that your partner has toxic traits, you know that there's toxicity within your relationship, and you're not willing to give up on your partner. You're saying, okay, we just need to get help. Like I know that my partner may have these characteristics, these toxic characteristics. I have these toxic characteristics, but they're not willing to get help. They're not taking steps to manage their this could be the partner that has PMDD, meaning you know that you love your partner, you know that your partner has PMDD, you know that they go off on PMDD rage every month and they cause chaos and confusion in your relationship. And they're not trying to get help for their PMDD symptoms. They're not trying to get help for their intrusive thoughts. They're not trying to learn how to regulate their emotions. They're not trying to get the tools that are specifically designed for PMDD. You may send them a copy of my podcast episode that you feel like really resonates with their behavior. They're not listening to the podcast. They're not trying to get a session with me. They're refusing to get a session with me. I've dealt with this a lot with my private clients where you almost have to convince this person to get help for their symptoms because they're refusing to seek help. They're knowing that their behavior is causing chaos and confusion in the relationship. But again, because a toxic partner is not taking accountability, they're refusing to get help and they may be putting it all on you and saying you're the problem. When they're leaving their PMDD symptoms untreated, knowing that it impacts you as their partner, they're knowing that by not treating their PMDD symptoms, they are hurting you and hurting the relationship and harming the relationship, and they're not willing to get help. Red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. Number 10, the disregard for boundaries. You try to create boundaries in your relationship and you try to say, you know what, this is what I need in a relationship in order to move forward. We have these issues, but I really feel like maybe I need more space. Maybe I need more autonomy. I need more freedom. Maybe I need more attention. Maybe I need to be able to do, certain activities on my own. When you start to ignore your partner's boundaries once they've communicated them to you and made them clear, and you're ignoring their need for their personal space, whether it's emotional, physical, or psychological. When you're in that place of they're communicating to you, they're saying, "Hey, babe, this is what I need," and you're just completely ignoring it, then that is a sign of a toxic PMDD partner, red flag of a toxic PMDD partner. And I want you to be very aware that if you're in a relationship with someone that is not respecting your boundaries, pretty much may get to the point where they feel like you're not going anywhere anyway. There's a lack of respect there. Because if I respect you, then I'm going to respect your boundaries. So these are the 10 signs of a toxic PMDD partner. These are the 10 traits. If you know that's you, any of them, or you think that it's your partner and it's something that you need help with, go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, and book those sessions and start working on it. It is a process. So nothing changes until something changes. So if you're thinking that this is the first step, being self-aware, taking accountability, saying, yeah, that's me, Dr. Rose. Or yeah, that's my partner, Dr. Rose. There's no shame in that. The shame is in knowing that it's you, knowing that it's your partner and not doing anything about it. When you know better, you do better. And when you know that you have the resources, so you can't say, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do about that." Yes, I'm telling you that I can help you with this. But if you're refusing, again, one of the toxic traits, refusing to get help, then nothing in your relationship is going to get better if you're with a toxic partner or if you are a toxic partner. So get the help that you need for your PMDD relationship. Until next time, we got this. Love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.